Tammy Daybell married a gravedigger named Chad. That gravedigger started writing books about religion and his own visions and prophecies. He started to get a following. One of his followers was a woman named Lori, who was married to her fourth husband, Charles. In 2019, in a span of less than 5 months, Lori's husband, Charles, was shot and killed by her brother, Alex. Lori's children, JJ and Tylee, disappeared. Tammy Daybell died inside of her home. Lori and Chad went to Hawaii and got married. Tammy's body was exhumed, and Alex had a health episode on the toilet and died. Then JJ and Tylee's remains were uncovered in Chad's backyard. Chad and Lori were both charged with the murders of her children and his wife. Lori went to trial first and was convicted by an Idaho jury. Now Chad is preparing for his 2024 trial and was back in court today as the judge was making several important decisions regarding that trial. Tonight, we will show you what happened and break down what the trial of Chad Daybell will look like and how different it will be than Lori's trial earlier this year. All this as we continue our investigation of the doomsday couple, Lori and Chad Daybell.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us here on Closing Arguments. It was a big day out in Idaho. I mean, a really big day when it comes to the upcoming trial of the so-called doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell. But let me begin here tonight. I love cameras. I love cameras. I mean, that's part of the reason why I do what I do. I get to hang out with a camera every night, right? There's one right there. There's another one over there. There's another one over there. But even before we all had these and everyone in the world walked around with a camera, I mean, growing up, I always had a camera in my hand. So, I mean, that's part of my DNA. I love cameras. But the place where I really love cameras are inside the courtroom, where we let the sun shine in and let the public see what is taking place in our system of justice. I think it's so important. Obviously, self-interest. I work at Court TV. I get it. But even before I worked at Court TV, I was watching trials on TV. So before I was like an employee, I was a fan. And I understood how important it was. And as a young lawyer, I would watch as many trials as possible. And to see, all right, how are they doing this? How am I supposed to do this whole thing? If I couldn't be in a courtroom during the day, at night I could watch what was happening inside those courtrooms. And I think what it really does for our system is gives a level of transparency. And with transparency comes trust. And it should be just standard that you should be able to see what's happening in your government. Especially folks like who may be busy during the day or have other responsibilities and have to do things and you can't get your way down to the courthouse, either in your town or a town over or a state over from where you are. We should be able to see what's happening inside. I think every courtroom should have cameras. They should be streaming what's happening. But it's not quite there yet, but Court TV, we're doing our part. And let's talk about the doomsday couple. Let's talk about this story and why cameras inside those courtrooms, I believe, are important. The community was invested when 2 children went missing, JJ and Tylee. Totally invested. Obviously, the families are invested. Families aren't all where the trial is happening. And the community as well. They all have a stake. And by the way, in every criminal case, it's not the prosecution versus the defendant, it's the people versus whoever the defendant is. The allegation is that someone has committed a crime against the public. So why shouldn't the public get to see the trial to find out what happened? To ensure that our system is working. And if it's not working, let's see it so we can fix it in whatever way we need to fix it. Trust, transparency, and the truth. Our courtrooms, our trials are supposed to be a search for the truth. But how do we know whether or not they got the truth if we can't see it? So, in the trial of Chad Daybell, ladies and gentlemen, I can announce tonight that we will see the evidence. We will see the evidence because today, Judge Boyce ruled that he's going to let the sunshine in. Take a look.
Requests here, the court is determined or has made a determination that in order to provide adequate access, the court is going to permit that the trial be broadcast while it occurs with certain restrictions.
There you go, folks. You will see the trial of Chad Daybell. You will see it. We heard Lori Daybell's trial. We covered it in depth here on Closing Arguments, but you will see the trial of Chad Daybell. It's going to be a much different trial. Much different trial. You're going to see a much different defense. And for the first time, you'll be able to see the evidence. So what I want to do this hour is kind of take a look at what's going to happen here. And I want to begin by talking about some of those big witnesses and those big moments and important moments in the case that will help this jury figure out the truth of what happened and figure out the truth of Chad Daybell's participation or lack of participation in the murders. And helping me tonight, we've got a great panel joining us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Private investigator Jason Jensen. In Boise, Idaho, trial lawyer, former Idaho Attorney General Dave Leroy is with us. Los Angeles, forensic psychiatrist, body language expert Dr. Carol Lieberman. And also in Salt Lake City, Utah tonight, private investigator, religious cult expert, and the author of Deceived, Mike King. Great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for joining us. I want to go through some of the big witnesses, the big moments, what we can expect, and how it all relates to Chad Daybell and in trying to prove the case against him or him being able to defend himself against these accusations. Let's begin with, there's two Melanies in the case. We'll begin with Melanie Gibb. This was a friend of Lori's, I believe a friend / perhaps follower at one point of Chad Daybell. An important member of this group that had all these beliefs. This is what she looks like. You will see her on the witness stand. Let's take a listen to a piece of her testimony from Lori Daybell's trial.
Did Lori ever indicate to you whether or not she and Chad were engaged in an affair?
She would just share that they were intimate.
Was this while Charles was still alive?
Yes.
Was this while Tammy was still alive?
Yes.
Did Lori indicate whether or not she thought it was okay that they were engaging in intimate relations?
She did. She felt it was according to God's will.
And did she tell you, ever expand on why she believed it was according to God's will?
Yes. She explained that because they had been married in multiple lives and they had a mission together, that it was okay.
And when we talk about her having a mission, did she ever talk to you about her mission to lead the 144,000 in relation to her children?
She indicated that she was a part of that group, the 144,000, and at some point everybody in her family would pass on just because of tribulations. At some point she shared that with me, probably in the very beginning.
All right, Jason Jensen, I'll begin with you. Melanie Gibb, she's kind of in the middle of everything here. So if you're trying to prosecute Chad Daybell, which is what the purpose is going to be here in this case, is to get him on the hook here for these three murders as well. How important do you think Melanie Gibb will be in that respect?
Well, it's important that Melanie Gibb's testimony is used to show that there was more than just a relationship between Chad and Lori in the context of a murder, but to show that he was the primary influence for her beliefs that led to the children's death, regardless who actually was responsible for the deaths themselves. But this is all occult influence led by Chad Daybell.
Dave, your thoughts about Melanie Gibb here, because she is one of the witnesses in this case who has spoken to Chad and Lori, spent time at Lori's house. She was there. She knew about this adulterous relationship that predated the deaths of their spouses. How significant will she be? And are there issues for her on cross-examination?
She's going to be very important in this case, partially because she links in the 144 and the overarching philosophy that led to the children's death, arguably. And secondly, she is going to testify, as she just did for us, about the premarital relationship, the adulterous relationship. Remember here, there are new charges against Chad that we have not seen any proof on yet, and that's namely the death, first-degree murder of Tammy. And Chad alone is charged with that, and he's charged with some very weak language, aiding and abetting, advising, consulting, and that kind of thing is going to require being tied in, I think, by somebody like Melanie, that shows he had personal interest, love interest in this from the very start.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, to me, Melanie Gibb has been the one person who has been, as she's spoken on television as well, she's done interviews, but a significant witness in Lori's trial as well. What do you think about her level of credibility and her ability to withstand whatever John Pryor's going to do to her on cross-examination?
I think that she's rather questionable. I think that her motives, her feelings about their relationship and so on have not really been explored enough. You know, I think that she felt competition with Lori and was not happy that Lori got Chad instead of her. So I think really part of her will be more favorable to Chad. Although, of course, you know, she's not happy with him either because he picked Lori. But I mean, those are sort of the underpinnings, these undercurrents of what her feeling, besides what actually she experienced and what she thinks, those are the undercurrents.
All right, Mike King, I want to play for you some testimony from Zulema Pastines. And she, Alex Cox's wife, not for a long time, but at the time that he died and sort of in the middle of all of this, she seems to be another one of the followers. But she was married to Alex Cox, who I think all of us believe was like the hitman, who was the one who was actually murdering people in all of this. There she is in her police interview. Let's take a listen to some of her testimony from the trial.
Did Lori ever talk to you, or Lori and Chad ever talk to you about how long they expected JJ to live?
Lori had said that he was going to have a very short life. And then in a meeting that we had at Lori's house in early August
of 2019,
Chad said that JJ was going to have a very short life, that he was going to, the reason why he was going to live a short life was because he was going to come right back as Colby's child.
And to your knowledge, did Alex believe this?
Yes, but Alex believed everything they told him.
All right, Mike King, a lot of testimony about they. So it seems you may have to tie Lori and Chad together as a unit, but that's not the way it's going to play at trial. Obviously, he's going to try to get away from her. What are your thoughts about Chad Daybell being the so-called doomsday prophet, and some of the witnesses who will be called were some of his followers? How does that play?
I think it plays very well to teach the lesson that these coercive groups like this one, where they have coercive mind control, are masterful at getting people to buy off in the ideology. And it's the boiling a frog kind of a thing, Vinny. It doesn't happen overnight, but slowly, piece by piece, they get people like the group that we're seeing investing in the belief system. And once they start investing in that belief system, they then can't admit the fact that, hey, maybe I was duped, maybe I was wrong, maybe these are a bunch of crazy people. And it gives me this flashback memory of dealing with a ritual murderer who murdered a number of people. And with his brother, they came up with the same kinds of ideologies, and they started broadcasting or prophesizing that they were going to commit these murders or that these people were going to die before they did it. And of course, there's always one who seems to be the one who is the voice of whatever this God is they believe in. And then the other comes along, and they're the arm of the God's wishes, and they're the one that gets to fulfill it. And somehow, as a group, they get everyone to buy off on this ideology.
You know, as Dave pointed out, Jason, the big difference in this trial is going to be a lot more focus on Tammy Daybell and her murder. Let's take a listen to some of the testimony from Samantha Gwillim, who is Tammy's sister.
Did you learn that Chad had been remarried?
Yes, we learned it was actually 1 month to the day of her burial is when I found out about it.
Did you later learn when he had actually gotten married?
Yeah, because I told my husband to find out, because Chad was still speaking, he was talking to my husband at that point, and I said, you find out when he actually got married, because I feel like that's very quick, even for somebody who's grieving. And like, you don't get married 4 weeks after you just buried your wife of almost 30 years. You just don't do that. And we found out it had only been 2 weeks after she had been buried, and we were devastated.
Jason Jensen, I see her as a witness that is kind of like the reality check of like, this is not normal. What is happening here, the time between the death and the marriage and this, there is something wrong going on here.
Yes, if this was just a basic murder, remarriage plot instead of all this mixed up with cult beliefs, that happens all the time where there's a death and all of a sudden remarriage, and you're thinking that this is related to an infidelity that led to this because they didn't want to lose their alimony or they didn't want to have to, fight for custody. They wanted just the wife out of the way so they can move on with their new relationship. So that part of it seems very traditional in some of these other kind of murder plots that are all convoluted with cult beliefs and the afterlife.
One of the most fascinating witnesses from Lori's trial, who I believe will have to testify here in Chad's trial as well, was Audrey Baratiero, who was a member and probably the most loyal follower of Chad Daybell. Take a listen.
You thought Chad Daybell is telling me about my past. He can probably predict the future, too.
Yeah.
Because he was writing books about the end of the world. He was telling people who they were in prior lives, great people, not losers. And that gave you a feeling of, I'm somebody, right?
Yes.
All right, David Leroy, how will John Pryor cross-examine these followers, right? The followers of his client. The Audreys of the world, the Zulemas of the world. Will he attack them, do you think?
Well, I think this whole trial will be about the doomsday prophet, Chad, trying to say that he's under the influence of the doomsday mom, Lori. And so John may concede that we have a prophet on our hands, but he's a lovesick man who somehow was drawn into Lori's sphere rather than remaining in charge of both prophecies and the actions of which he's charged. They're going to try Lori as much as John Pryor can in this case, and by cross-examination of some of these follows, he will introduce those themes if they're put on early.